What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another Friday night. So, although you can only see me right now, I assure you that you are on with the undisputed, undefeated tag team champions of Interactive Sports Talk.
The Universal Galaxio Tag Team Champions of Sports Talk.
And of course, that mysterious deep voice you hear on the other end is my co-host, the one and the only.
That would be your boy, Cool McCain.
And of course, my name is Stephen Box. One day you can just call me Box. And together, we are the Play Caller. Yes, sir. So, cool, man. Bro, so much to talk about tonight. Got college football. Finally. Well, I mean, it's bad for the rest of y'all. It was bad for me last week. But college football bad for everybody this week. Had some NFL stuff go down this week. Big trade in the NBA also went down. Got a couple of matchups we're going to talk about. We didn't get a chance to touch on it last week, but we got to talk about this Aaron Donald situation. Of course, finally got a resolution on this Jimmy Garoppolo situation. I'll touch on it a little bit. And I don't know, man. There was some major news that broke a couple of hours ago. Oh, yeah, that's right. College playoffs expanding to 12 teams. So we about to jump into all that tonight. So as always, man, y'all know the rules. Please hit the like button. Let YouTube know that you enjoy the show. That helps us spread a little love for us. And of course, hop in the chat, interact. That's why we are the tag team champions of Interactive Sports Talk, because of you, the fans. So much love and appreciation for everybody who tunes into the show. So I'm just gonna ask you, man, where would you like to kick off tonight? Because I mean, there's so much stuff.
Let's start with the Aaron Donald situation, since we didn't have an opportunity to touch on it last week.
I dare I say that I feel like you hit the nail on the head with that one.
Well, nails should be hit on the head, sir. So I guess I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
So yeah, go ahead, man. What are your thoughts on this one?
So for those of you who are living under a rock or in a place where there's no social media, television, or anything like that, Aaron Donald got into a little fisticuffs altercation of some sort. I guess that's what you would call it. But essentially, what Mr. Donald did was crack some people with helmets. It happened in practice, not a game. Practice. So essentially, what's occurred is people are running around. They're wanting Donald to be suspended and all these things that happened to Aaron Donald because of that. And they're prefacing it by saying what happened with what's my guy's name? I forgot his
Myles
name.
Garrett. You talking about Myles Garrett? I think we lost my co-host for a second. It's a little hard to tell with no video. So I believe that who he's referring to is Myles Garrett. So be curious to see his thoughts on this. But I will go ahead and share my thoughts while I wait for him to get back on here. So I know a lot of people are saying that they think he should be suspended. And for me, I think I kind of agree with that, right? To an extent. Because at the end of the day, when you are... Oh,
can you hear me now?
Yeah, man, you just took us off of air for a second. But yeah, I hear you.
My bad.
Yeah, but go ahead. So go ahead and finish your thoughts, then I'll share mine.
Sure. I was saying Myles Garrett situation. So essentially the problem for me is it's practice. So we want to apply the same thing across the board. I first want to say, for people who watch the show, a lot of you, that's very hypocritical. And the reason it's very hypocritical, I'm going to go back to, is the whole Deshaun Watson situation. So for Deshaun Watson, you wanted him to have more of a punishment than anyone's ever had for a similar situation. Let's not forget Ben Roethlisberger couple of situations where people were calling him Rapelessburger, 6 games suspended. But for Deshaun Watson, you wanted indefinite or at least a year. But in this case, you want the same punishment that someone else got for another person. So how hypocritical of all you people that are out there saying he should be suspended because of what happened with Myles Garrett. Let's apply the same thing across the board. But you don't want to do that. You want to pick and choose the situations where you decide what should happen, and what shouldn't happen. Aaron Donald did this in practice. Per the collective bargaining agreement, the NFL is not able to punish someone for something that happens in practice. That has to come for the team. So for all you that are whining, saying the NFL's this, the NFL's that, due to the collective bargaining agreement, the same one that, in my opinion, screwed over Deshaun Watson, it screwed over the NFL in this case, and they cannot punish him. So I want you to understand, you cannot punish someone in practice the way you can in a game. That discipline has to be doled out by the team. Whether you agree with it or not, that's what's in place. So what I want us to start understanding as people who follow sports, talk sports, watch sports, let's actually understand what can and can't happen before we start making this call that this should happen, that should happen. He is a starting defensive end. Do you think the Rams are going to do anything to him?
Nope.
Excuse me, defensive lineman. They're not going to do anything to him. So while you can clamor, you can cry, you can whine, you're not going to get the same outcome that you did by forcing the NFL to push more on Deshaun Watson. Nothing's going to happen. So enjoy your crying, enjoy your whining, have your wine and cheese. Nothing happens. You might as well let it go.
So I'm going to say I somewhat agree with you. I agree that he should be suspended based on similar actions by Myles Garrett and the punishment that was issued out there. But where I also disagree with a lot of people and agree with you is this is what the collective bargaining agreement, otherwise known as the CBA, actually states, is that teams have say-so over practice. Now, maybe this is something they should revisit when the next CBA comes out. That in an instance like this, the NFL has the authority, whatever, right? But the thing is, right now, by the rules, there's nothing that can be done. And there's nothing that should be done because doing something at this point basically just destroys the CBA. So to me, I understand why nothing's being done. But I also think that it's incredibly stupid that a guy can swing a helmet at someone in practice and there not be any punishment for it, yet you can punish Deshaun Watson for things that allegedly happened off the field. And that's where my issue with all of this comes from, is the fact that you're not being consistent in the way that you're handing out punishments. So to me, this really comes down to clearly whenever they made this part of the agreement to say that teams handle what happens in practice, situations like this were clearly overlooked. But hey, it is what it is. I'm not going to sit there and, be like, oh, he should get suspended and da-da-da-da-da. Because at the end of the day, the CBA says he shouldn't. Unless the Rams decide to do it. And we all know that's not going to happen. So Eric says, I still remember that LeGarrette Blunt punch a couple years ago. Yeah, I think we all remember that one.
Good one, Big E. Good one. Very good one.
So yeah, I mean, that's my take on it, man. So I do agree with you that based on the CBA, there's nothing they can do. But I also do kind of understand where people are coming from, that the NFL is very inconsistent with this kind of stuff, which was kind of our whole point during the whole Deshaun Watson thing, right?
Exactly. You punish someone else less, you punish him more. So what I want moving forward then is, if someone is accused, not found guilty, because that did not happen here. I don't care how you feel about him. I don't care if you feel like he did it. I don't care if you feel like he didn't do it. He was accused. Accusations and talking to 5 women, because that's all the NFL talked to, according to reports. 5 women, one of which their child got on and said, hey, my mom said to keep quiet, and then when she gets some money, she's going to give me some.
Yeah.
So that's one of the 5 women that you talked to. That's how you decided that he should be punished this much. Right. What I will say for the NFL is, as a leadership group, you have a great sport, but as a leadership group, you're all soft pansies. You have a soft pansy and Roger Goodell running things, who's basically your errand boy, and all you do is fold to public complaint when you want to, but when you don't care what the public thinks.
Yeah.
And that to me makes you soft and inconsistent. And at the end of the day, you should be fair and consistent, but you're not. You're hypocritical. You choose and pick the punishment based on backlash and how you feel about that specific person. That's what you do. You have no consistency. And I just want to say, I know we got other topics to discuss. One of these days, the players are going to start to get the power like they do in the NBA. And that's going to tick off a lot of people, but it's going to happen. These type of situations, they start to make that happen.
Yeah. So, man, kind of staying on the NFL here, but switching the subject up a little bit. We did actually have cuts last week. Everybody had to get down to 53 on the rosters. And so, of course, we've seen a little shifting going around, a couple of cuts, a couple of guys picking up, people off of the waivers and the cut list and all that kind of stuff. Any particular activities that stood out for you?
Well, I think I'm not going to go into any specific one, but I think we saw a lot of cuts based on how well you do or don't play. In the past, it's been a lot of like, oh, this guy's this name, this guy's that name. So they normally don't get cut based on it. I think you've seen across the league a lot of people saying, hey, for instance, your team, my team did it with certain people as well. And other teams I watched, players that have names, high draft picks, veteran players, sometimes players even started last year. If there's better options out there based on what they saw throughout camp in these 3 games, people are cut.
Yeah.
I think that's best for the NFL because you're giving us the best product that way. Like I said, the decision makers for the organizations as far as the player side, staffing, coaching, all of that, I think they're doing very well. General managers, for the most part, I think they're doing very well. But the ownership side, I have a problem with a lot of you guys. And I separate the two just because I can't blame one side because the other side is garbage.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of interesting ones for me. The Leatherwood situation. I mean, not so much that they cut him, but I'm actually a little bit surprised that they came out and they said they shopped him to literally every team. They couldn't even get a late round pick for a guy that just 16 months ago they spent the number 17 overall pick on. That's just kind of mind blowing.
Well, it's a smart move because he's already gotten picked up. Somebody just said, why pay you?
Yeah.
Well, we could just sign him, for much less once you cut him.
But, sometimes you can usually get like a late round pick for somebody if somebody wants to make sure they don't have to deal with, other teams bidding for them or whatever. There was also a couple of moves. I know one that you're pretty excited about. I'm sure you'll have a lot more to talk about on Wednesday on the Eagles Elite podcast. Or
Yeah,
that you probably did talk about it, I should say. And
absolutely.
that was the Saints trading Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to the Eagles.
CJ.
So I know you're pretty excited about that. And then, of course, a lot of people were very surprised that the 49ers retained Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'm going to say that none of those people watched this show because I've been telling y'all for months that this was going to happen. It's on. I got the receipts for it. You can go all the way back to July 22nd and find the video. I actually said that Jimmy Garoppolo would still be on the 49ers roster come week 1. I said he would do so with a pay cut. And I said that he would be Trey Lance's backup. I told y'all exactly what was going to happen. The 49ers have been telling you for months that this was what they were going to do if they couldn't get the trade they wanted. And it became abundantly clear that the only potential place they could trade him and hopefully get what they wanted was Seattle. And they weren't sending him there. So now he's going to sit on the roster. If a starter gets injured somewhere, he might get traded during the season. If not, he stays on. He's at a reduced salary of $6.5 million, and he's basically going to be a guaranteed 3rd-round comp pick. So I like it.
Thank you, Minnesota.
Yes.
Just want to say that. Thank you, Minnesota. You are my friends.
So wait, I have an important question for you. Okay. So you've been talking about how because of the AJ Brown trade, the Tennessee is your second favorite team for the next 3 years. Where does Minnesota now fall in the hierarchy?
They're still just Minnesota, even though they did that for us. You know why? Because I saw the video where they laughed at us when we picked him. So you laughed at us for picking him. Then you took him. So thank you for taking him, but you laughed at us.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. So yeah, man. That's that's right now NFL. We're gonna be talking a lot more NFL. Oh, I don't know. Tuesday nights at 9 p.m.
Eastern Standard Time.
It's coming Tuesday. Episode number 1. The NFL Match Up Madness.
Let's go.
So real quick, man, you want to just tell people what to expect Tuesday night, why they should tune in?
Sure. So Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, you're going to get to see me just host, right? I give my opinions here. You know, there's several other places I give my opinions, but this time I'm just going to host. I'm not going to have any bipartisanship towards the Eagles. No hate for the Arlington football team or anyone else. I am going to be a host. You're going to get people who are fans of teams, people who love the podcasting world and love sports, discussing in small segments each matchup, just letting everyone just kind of give their opinions on who they think is going to win each individual game and why. And we're doing every game every week. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a lot of explosive and combustible pieces. And you'll see me kind of take charge when needed and handle those pieces to keep things flowing. But it's going to be a great experience. There's going to be some exciting things happening with it. And, you know, everyone that watches, you're going to enjoy what you see.
Yeah, and I just say, man, for anybody out there debating if they want to tune into the show, watching you not say anything, especially when people are talking about the other 3 teams in the NFC East, alone worth it.
That's fair. That is very fair. That's very fair.
Yeah. I'm sure the facial expressions are going to really be fantastic.
But I won't say anything.
I will be a part of that show also on a rotating basis, covering the 49ers every other week, along with another 49ers expert. So definitely looking forward to being a part of it, man. And, you know, it's going to be fun to pass all the hosting duties off to somebody else and just get to just talk for a little while, huh? And actually be a homer. I actually get to be a homer, man. How fantastic is that? You
act like you're not now, sir.
I mean, listen, sir, I'm fairly reserved on here. Just tune in Tuesday nights and y'all get to see the real deal. That's what it is.
That's sad.
Yeah, man. Let's turn to the college football thing here, right? So we're gonna get into this playoff conversation, but I want to talk about one other thing first. So I'm sure you saw this story about FAMU this past weekend. So they traveled to North Carolina, but they had a whole bunch of players on the team who were ineligible. And the team collectively decided that they didn't want to play in the game. They decided that, hey, you know what? We're shorthanded. We don't really have enough people to go out there. We're already playing a Power 5 team. We don't want to put ourselves at risk. And here's the thing, in my opinion. We like to promote the fact that these guys are amateurs, that they're not professional athletes. We're not paying them. Okay, now we have NIL deals, but that's not paying them to actually play. That's rewarding them for the fame that comes along with that, but that's not actually paying them to go out and play the games. So if these guys are truly amateurs and you're not willing to pay them to go out there, then when they say we don't want to play the game, it shouldn't have been an issue. That should have been the end of the discussion. But instead, FAMU's president went in and apparently had a conversation with the team. I'm not going to pretend to know what that conversation was. I don't know if it was just a little pep talk or if it was a guilt trip or whatever it was. But after that conversation, the team came out and said they decided they're going to play for, their the fans and their families and all that stuff. So, they went ahead and went through with it. But to me, like, this speaks to a much bigger issue about why even the NIL is not enough. At the end of the day, the president of the university got involved in this decision for one reason, and that was a $450,000 check.
Hey, man, people can say what they want. That's a daggone good reason to get involved. Real talk.
So it's ridiculous to me that these kids are out here. They're the ones putting their bodies on the line. They're the ones putting themselves at risk. They're going out there shorthanded. They're missing a lot of their teammates, and they're not being compensated for it in any way, shape, or form. But they were made to feel that they needed to go out there and play that game because somebody else needed to collect the paycheck.
Hey, man, that's how it goes. That's amateur college athletes. That's kind of like where we're at. That's why the NIL, I think, was so important, because no, it's not going to give them, for the most part. You have some people that might, but for the most part, the kind of money they would get if they were getting a cut of, the money that the school makes. But the problem is, if you're going to give them a cut, then what about the other teams? You have a lot of teams that aren't profitable, right? So if you go out and you got to pay everybody, then that really hurts. So it's a two-edged sword. So I think the NIL is a good compromise for those who can learn how to take advantage of it. It's been around for a few years, like a year or two now. So I think once it gets a little bit more time and people kind of understand how different ways it can be finessed to help some of the other athletes, even if it's just like smaller deals, I think it'll be something that will be very beneficial, to a lot of people. And that's the important part. A lot of these kids, they could use the money. So them being able to do it now, sell a jersey, you know what I'm saying, promote a barbershop, promote a car lot, whatever. They at least have the opportunity to do that and not have the school suffer later by being stripped of everything. Because think about like Reggie Bush's situation, right? I mean, you drag his name through the mud a little bit, but it's all retroactive, right? You still got the video of him winning the Heisman. You still got all the great things he did. You can take the record away, but you can't take away the fact that it happened. Right. But it hurts the school because it takes away, resources from the school. So this is a way that you can kind of negate that. So I am happy that the NIL is in place. Obviously, there needs to be more done at some point, but you got to start somewhere. Yeah. But before we go to the college, don't forget we got to talk about Russell Wilson and his new payday.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to ask you a very important question in regards to what you just said, though. Mm-hmm. Did it come crashing down the hurting side? That's very important to,
I think it was more of they had to take a stand and they didn't have to hide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate you clearing for that.
No problem.
I can't even believe I was about to forget about the Russell Wilson deal, man. I think that deal just like threw me like off so much that I forgot that it was a thing, right? Like that's what happened. Like I woke up this morning, I was like, that really didn't happen. They didn't really sign that deal. That's not real.
Yeah. They signed it.
Here's my thing. My issue isn't with the fact that you paid Russell Wilson. There's certainly an argument to be made for paying him, right? And look, I think that he maybe hasn't earned that paycheck in a Broncos uniform, but it's your money. You know what I'm saying? You do what you want with it. But to sign a dude that's really had some injuries the last couple of years, a guy that we've talked about consistently has played at a high level for part of the season and then not so much. You're now signing him out for 7 years. I mean, I haven't looked at the exact structure, so I don't know how much of that is paid up front. But you're talking about still at a minimum paying him a pretty good amount of money in years 4 and 5. And so for me, it's crazy to think that a guy who really most of his talent is based on his elusiveness, that you're going to be counting on the fact that he's still going to be that elusive in 4 or 5 years, that he's going to actually deserve that much money at that time. That's to me just crazy. But hey, like I said, man, it's not my money, so it's not my team. So,
well, what I think is they're looking at him and saying, "Oh, Russ is a guy who hasn't taken a lot of damage over his career, right? He hasn't been hit a lot. He's ran away a lot. He's had some little ticky-tack type injuries, but he hasn't had any major like leg injuries, any major like arm injuries or anything of that nature. So I think they're more looking at it like, he's a guy that because he can move around, but he still makes a lot of throws from behind the line. And I'm not saying that this is correct or not. So let's get clear. I'm not saying that this is the right way or this is how they should look at it. I'm just saying that's what I think how they are looking at it. So he's a guy that, look at Tom Brady, how long he's able to play. Russell Wilson will be fine in, 5-6 years. Because I think this takes his full amount of time that he'll be there to like 7 years, I believe I saw earlier.
Yeah.
So you're putting
years.
you're putting a lot into a guy. You're saying that you expect 7 years from now him to still be able to play the quarterback position at least at a mediocre level as far as arm strength, talent, ability to do everything, and his physical play. And obviously, I saw that he said the contract in the not the contract, but in the meeting, he was saying that he wants to retire as a Bronco. Of course you do, because it's by the time 7 years is over, that's probably going to be the end of your career, sir, if not before.
Yeah.
Personally, I think definitely too soon to make you had more time to make the decision. So we look at the overall number, but remember, this is not a completely guaranteed contract. This is not a Deshaun Watson contract. This is more in line with what teams want to do for quarterbacks. Yeah. I'll give you this bloated 245, but only guaranteeing 165 of that 245. Yeah. So this is more in line with if you're an organization, you're a general manager or something. This is why you're waiting on paying a guy like Lamar, because you're saying, all right, Lamar, so you got that bloated contract, but let's look at everyone else, right? Like, if you want to be between everyone else and that for guaranteed money, we can do that. You're not getting a fully guaranteed deal. You can have a bigger overall number than Deshaun Watson if you want, but you're not going to have a bigger guaranteed number. You're going to be below him in the guaranteed dollars. And I think that's what's important for a lot of teams. As I look at my team, possibly needing to re-sign our quarterback this offseason or next offseason at the very latest, this is more comforting as a team that has a young quarterback, because it's like, all right, we're getting back to where we expect the overall dollars to be bloated. You win Super Bowls, you do all these great things for the team. Yeah, you get more. But at a certain level, you want to keep that guaranteed out. And this kind of falls back in line with what seems to be more comfortable than guaranteeing most or all of a contract.
So I'm looking at Sport Track right now, and what they have, and obviously I'm sure there'll be a few more details that will come out. But as of right now, what they're saying is the potential out on this deal is 2026. At that point, you've paid out $4 million, including that season, $161 million. But if they cut him prior to the start of that season, they're looking at $31 million in dead cap. So next year, so basically he's not getting cut that year. Now the following year, 2027, you're looking at about $13 million in dead cap space.
Yeah,
probably still not likely, but a little bit more doable. And then 2028, you're talking $4 million in dead cap. So really, essentially, you're the last 2 years of this deal are void. I mean, you could afford to cut him at $4 million without it really hurting you too much. Yeah. So this is really a 5-year deal, not a 7-year deal. And as you pointed out, it's really 165 million, not 245.
Yeah, it's the guaranteed number of people. That's what we got to pay attention to.
Yeah, and then we'll see, how some of it plays out too, because I'm sure a lot of it's going to be bonuses and things like that. Where they could get in trouble with this deal is if they have to restructure, because they're only going to be able to move so much of it to bonuses, and they're going to have to push some of it into the future. They could get themselves in long-term cap trouble with this deal if they have to start like the Saints, if they have to start redoing this contract and pushing out into the future. So that's going to be what is interesting to see. I guess they better hope that he stays healthy for 5 years. And
oh yeah, they've got to hope for that, sir, because there's no out for them before then. To really talk about.
Yeah. So yeah, appreciate you bringing that because I did actually forget about that.
No problem. That's why we're a team, bro. That's why we're a team.
So we're gonna talk about 2 games tonight. Oregon and Georgia, and Ohio State and Notre Dame. Do you want to talk about those first, or do you want to go and talk about this college playoff announcement?
Let's talk about the games first because I have a lot to say about the college playoff announcement.
Do this.
So yeah, let's do the games first.
All right, so Oregon and Georgia. Let's start there. This is, I believe, number 3 versus number 11. Yeah, number 11 is Oregon.
Yes, sir.
So the point spread on this, man, 17 points. No one has really given Oregon much of a chance in this game. And I got to tell you, I think that is a mistake. Now, I am picking Georgia to win the game, but I think 17 points is way too much. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than people think.
Yeah, I could dig that.
This is what I'm going to point out. So number one, Stenson Bennett last year for Georgia had some pretty big moments. He played pretty well, but he also had a lot of mediocre moments. And he was a guy being here in Georgia I heard fans complain about all the time. You know, they were clamoring for JT Daniels up until the moment that Stenson Bennett actually won the championship. Right? Even going into the national championship game, they wanted Stenson Bennett benched. So this is now a guy that's going to come back and lead. And let's not forget, there's a guy that we just heard a couple weeks ago. Our Pittsburgh Steelers fan came on to talk about George Pickens, that they lost at Georgia. That's a huge piece of their offense that they lost. Defensively, that great defense from last year, they had like 5 of those guys go in the first round of the NFL draft. I think you're only bringing 3 people back on this defense this year.
Well, no, 2 of them are in Philly.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. They have a ton of talent. They got depth talent in Georgia. The defense is going to still be good. They're not replacing these guys with like 3 stars. Yeah. But at the same time, this is a team that first game jitters, you come out there, you're not surrounded by talent. You're not like a guy sliding in next to a lot of other, experienced talent. You've got 3 guys coming back. So you got almost a whole new defense going out there. Oh, and by the way, your defensive coordinator, the guy that knows all your weaknesses, is coaching on the other side. Oh, and guess what else he knows? He knows all the weaknesses of your offense because he saw it every day in practice. There is the real potential for upset here. The only reason I do not think it's going to happen, I have concerns about Oregon's offensive line being able to hold off, Oregon's offensive line to be able to hold off Georgia's defensive line. And I didn't really see much out of Bo Nix at Auburn that makes me think that Oregon fans should be excited about him. So to me, that's the difference. That's why I'm going with Georgia, is those 2 things. But the potential for upset is there, and I think 17 points is wildly outrageous. What are your thoughts on that game?
It's definitely too much. For me, I would say the smart money says Georgia, but like you said, there's a lot of differences in people who are no longer in Georgia that were there last year. Oregon has an opportunity to come out here and play with nothing to lose, right? In a conference that could be decimated in the next few years with people leaving and going other places. Big Ten's been talking to some other teams from there as well. They're like Phil Knight's play team, so they always have great uniforms. They always have quality recruiting. At the risk of talking the individual talent, and the reason I'm wanting to stay away is because I want to save that time for the big topic. But at the risk of not doing that, so you look at Oregon and you have a team of quality guys. You have a lot of guys who are also talented. So to count them out by 17 before the game starts, it's crazy. Now you look at, it's a 3:30 game, so you're thinking, well, 3:30, so it's like 12:30 on on the West Coast, but that's still early enough for them to be prepared to play a game. It's not like they're playing, a 12 o'clock game that's like 9:30 there. So
right.
The big thing for me in all of this is Oregon's not going to lose this game by 17, I believe. If you're a betting person, I would bet on Oregon. I think they're going to be able to hang with Georgia. And if Georgia makes mistakes, if that defense gives up one or two big plays that they shouldn't, because you have a lot of guys that don't have that same consistency of playing together. You don't have guys that have been playing together 2-3 years. You have a lot of new pieces, like you were saying. Yep. Some things can happen. And Oregon doesn't have a shabby defense. They're the number 11 team in the country, right? Yeah. We're not talking about a team that's unranked or a team that's wrongfully ranked. Oregon is a good team. Oregon is a solid team. They're always in contention not always, but most of the time in contention in the Pac-12. And the Pac-12 has some other solid teams. So overlooking Oregon, I would not do that if I was Georgia. And if you're Georgia, you don't want to start off the season 0-1. So you better go out and perform. And you have question marks of your own, I think, even more so than Oregon does. So we're going to see a lot about Georgia in this first game. Preseason is great. It's cute to get that ranking early. But when you're new and you have a lot of pieces that haven't been together like Georgia, we're going to see if it works. Hopefully it will for them, but we're going to see.
Well, my other big question with Georgia is, you got to the mountaintop last year. Are you going to stay hungry? Or are you going to get complacent? So to me, that's a really interesting question to ask. And by the way, just before we jump into the playoff conversation after this next game, remind me, we do need to go ahead and talk about the big trade that went down in the NBA also.
Oh, yeah.
So talk to me about Ohio State and Notre Dame. What's your thoughts?
So Ohio State is a team a lot of people are expecting to compete for a national championship, right? Mm-hmm. That's a team we can argue if they will or not, but that's a team a lot of people do expect. So this is 2 versus 5. So this is a premier matchup based on what we saw in the offseason, based on where they were at last season. A lot of questions for me for Notre Dame in this one. We were saying before, there's a lot of questions for Georgia, a lot of questions for Notre Dame. Some of their better talent is no longer there, right? Yeah. They have a new coach. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be his first year as actually, starting out the season, going through camp and everything as the head coach. So is he going to make the right decisions in that situation to ensure that the team can win in those situations, ensure they're prepared in the off season, because a lot of times you go through things before you learn that you have to modify what you do. A lot of first-year coaches struggle, especially early in the season. I know he coached some games last year, but like I said, it's his team now. It's like everything's him. So this is that time where we see if that's going to be any drop-off from that, if maybe certain things are going to be unique, if maybe things aren't going to be exactly the same that they were last year. Yeah. So that could be a problem for Notre Dame. Right. There's not a question of talent on either one of these teams. Ohio State's number 2 for a reason. Notre Dame's number 5 for a reason. Ohio State is what we say a lot of things about a lot of teams. Ohio State is wide receiver U. So, yeah, they just dropped a couple of guys in the NFL. They've got guys on their bench that's playing behind them that's going to step up this year. Or that's at least the expectation. So with these two teams, I'd have to say if I'm looking at everything, Ohio State has the advantage because of the coaching. Right. I think talent-wise, they both have pluses and minuses, but I think you question Notre Dame beginning of the season, new coach, first full season as a coach, first all-season team activities, first all those things as a coach, if those guys are going to be prepared for this first game. There is a flip side to that. Sometimes when it's the first time, you're so excited that you're in that position that you play or do better than you would normally do. So as a coach, you have your kids ready to play better than you normally would. You're more hyped than normal. You get up really high for that first game because it's just that first, right? So we could have either thing happen. I think Ohio State, though, is going to be more even-keeled. The weapons are going to be there. Every year we have seniors that leave teams. We have young guys, to come in and have to step up, or guys that were already there that are also supposed to be high-quality talent need to step up and show it. I think both teams will have some of that. I think Ohio State's going to be fine. I do have this as a close game. But having said all that, I actually got to pick Notre Dame.
Yeah, man. Here's the thing. So I look at Ohio State, and I get why people are talking about them in the national championship picture, right? Totally makes sense. And I think this offense is going to be really good. Even though they did lose Olave and Wilson, they do have guys who I think will be really good receivers for them this year. Yep. My concern, if I'm an Ohio State fan, is are those guys going to be ready week 1 to step into that spotlight, right? Yeah. Obviously you got CJ Stroud, who is going to help them out. It's always good when you have a good quarterback, but one thing about CJ Stroud is last year inside the pocket, he was pretty deadly. If you got him on the move, he was a little bit more prone to make mistakes. And this Notre Dame defense can get a little bit of pressure on you, and they can make you get outside the pocket where he's more prone to make mistakes. So I think that's going to be a big thing for them. You kind of pointed out Marcus Freeman, first-year coach, guy who's been preparing for this opportunity for a while. Guy that, a lot of people really are high on. Got a lot of talk last year before this actually, came to fruition as being a head coaching candidate. What is he going to come out with his first game? He has the element of surprise, right? No one really knows what to expect from his team. That could play highly to their benefit right now. So that's going to really be kind of the question for me is, does Ohio State have those missing pieces? Do they have the guys who can come in and take the place of those guys that left? And can they do it immediately? And can this Notre Dame team, because they're also, I think the difference on this game is also like 17 points. Can they kind of take that disrespect? Can they take that people going, oh, you're a top 5 team, but we're going to act like you're not even in the top 25. Like we're not even giving you a chance in this game, right? Can they take that disrespect and channel that and go, we want to go out there and prove that our coach has us prepared to play football? I actually am also picking Notre Dame to pull off the upset in this game. So I was actually surprised that you picked him. I was like, we're gonna differ on this, and you picked him. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, I got you right because I went in the whole thing about how Ohio State's this and Notre Dame this and all that, and I picked Notre Dame. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, just in case anybody's thinking to themselves, there's no way that Notre Dame is going to be able to keep up with Ohio State's offense. I'm going to give you some numbers. We don't give you numbers very often on here, but I'm going to give you a couple. And I realize that Ohio State has a new defensive coordinator this year, but we don't know what that's going to look like just yet. This is what they did last year. 31 points to Minnesota, 35 to Oregon, 31 to Purdue, and 42 to Michigan, and 45 to Utah. Your offense has to put up a lot of points when your defense is giving up numbers like that.
Woo-woo.
That's all I'm saying. So that's why I'm picking Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, I'm picking Notre Dame. I'm picking Notre Dame. Feel me?
Yeah. So man, before we get into this playoff conversation, talking about the NBA, what your career went down, man. First of all, what they be doing up there in Utah, man? How do we convince people to give up all this stuff, right?
So all I can suggest is that Utah has a lot of dirt on a lot of people, right?
Really?
And they're just leveraging that dirt when they're trying to make these trades. That's the only thing that I can think of.
I think Utah might be manufacturing the dirt, bro. Just, as effective as they are.
So remember we talked a few weeks ago and we said after what they got for your boy,
the Frenchman,
the COVID outbreaker, after what they got for him, Rudy Gobert, they couldn't take less to deal Donovan Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't.
Nope.
They got a solid player in Colin Sexton. You can feel how you want about Lori, Mark. I think it's marketing, and then I'm not even gonna try the other guy's name because I don't want to mess it up. But you got those 3 players who all should be rotational, at least pieces. Sexton might even start on that team. You also got 3 first-round picks in 25, 27, 29, and you got the right to swap picks. But I want people to hold on real quick on the right to swap picks. And I want people to understand, take that out of the equation. You look at these 2 teams in the next 4 years. Cleveland's young, on the way up. Utah has a bunch of draft picks. That's it. Right. Cleveland's going to have a better record in 26 and 28. I believe that. Yeah, so with that being the case, that part is just for cosmetic reasons. You understand what I'm saying? That's cosmetics. Because if I have the 13th pick and you have the 25th pick, I'm not trading picks with you. Yeah. I'm going to decline that right, and I'm going to keep it moving. But this cosmetically makes them look like they got more for Donovan Mitchell. Yeah. That's what this is. It's just
like that 245 on Russell Wilson's contract.
This is just in the words of the Negro Knight Stephen A. Smith, this is just a bloviated number or bloviated.
Not bloviated, man. Come on.
Thing to add just for the fact of cosmetically looking beautiful. That's all it is, man. But the trade itself, New York offered a really good package. But honestly, I think New York, you dodged the bullet. Mitchell is a good player. Mitchell's an all-star, and this is no disrespect to Mitchell because he's been in Utah basically by himself for years, like doing it. But you got a lot of young guys that you were going to include in that trade that now you get to keep. And honestly, when you almost trade somebody and it doesn't go through, they normally come out and they normally act a fool on the court the next year.
Yeah.
So you could get a lot of production from guys like Obi Toppin, RJ Barrett, and others next year because you almost traded them. And getting rid of all those young pieces, it would be the same thing as Kevin Durant going somewhere. Yeah. And why he's not going anywhere. If I get rid of all the quality to bring you in, all the young pieces to play around you, then you're in no better of a situation. Right. So I think Donovan Mitchell went somewhere where he can play off the ball if he wants to. He can focus on the scoring. He can do what he does. Right. And he's surrounded by a young up-tempo team that's going to play with him and not a team that's going to drag him down because of the way they're going to play. So I think, honestly, for me, it's a win-win trade. Utah got what they wanted. Cleveland was one of the teams that had a dearth of young talent, that they were able to have that many pieces leave and still look like a team of the future by bringing in Donovan Mitchell. So I think it's a win-win. How often can you draft? Like at some point, you got to have a vet. You might as well trade some draft picks to get them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that, you're looking at a lot that Cleveland did give up to get him. And I mean, ultimately, I guess my question would be, is this a move that's going to make Cleveland good enough to compete for a title anytime soon? And the answer is no, it's not. Now, there might be other moves that might make, but considering how much they gave up, I don't know that they really have enough resources left to do too much else. But, that's kind of my big thing with them right now, right? Is did you give up too much for a guy that's not really going to take you very far? If you're Utah, you basically just threw in the towel and said, we're going to start over. I don't really feel like either side necessarily lost on this trade, but I also don't feel like either team came out of this immediately ready to compete in the next year or two. And, for a blockbuster trade like this, I generally feel like you want to be coming out of this feeling like you can compete for championships fairly soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes them better than they were, though, because I think Mitchell gives them a closer that they didn't have.
Oh, it definitely made them better. No doubt about that.
Unfortunately, they're in the Eastern Conference, and it looks like the Eastern Conference is just getting better and better.
Yeah. Yes, it is. So we got about 10 minutes here, man. If we go a couple minutes over, it's all good. Since we got a late start tonight, anyways. But let's talk about this college football playoff. So for those who maybe haven't heard yet, because you don't own televisions or something, I don't know. It was just voted on today that the College Football Playoff Board of Managers voted to expand the college football playoff to 12 games or to 12 teams in 2026. And they're working on seeing if they can possibly implement this as soon as 2024. Now, what it looks like they're going to be doing is the original 12-team model that was put in, which would include the 6 highest ranked conference champions and 6 at-large teams. So I'm going to just give you the floor, man, and hear your thoughts on this.
College football board of governors, directors, whoever the heck you are. It's about time.
Long name is.
Yeah. It's about time that you pulled your heads out of each other's hind parts and did something that made sense. 4 teams determining the champion. Come on, son. That was never going to work. That was stupid from the beginning. We talked about on this very show when they started it, 4 did not make sense. You had 5 major conferences at the time. So you're only going to put 4 teams from 5 major conferences? How does that even work?
Right.
The lack of just planning, logic, and overall common sense. I'm almost at a loss for words for how you thought 4 teams was ever going to be successful. Mm-hmm. We talked several times about how it should be at a minimum of 6. That would give every major conference at one at large. Now you're going to go to every major conference and 7 at large. So all of the big 5 and then 7 at large. So teams like a Cincinnati last year wouldn't have to fight to get in. You know, there's more parity, I feel like, in college football now. You've got some teams at the top, but if they have to play other teams, if they have to play, you can have a loss now and you don't have to feel like your season's over, right? Because you can still be a top 12 team. And whoever finishes 13 and 14, they're going to cry even in this scenario. But, I mean, if you can't be one of the top 12 teams, are you really having anything you can complain about? But let's go back to the people who make these decisions. So you make the decision, and then you say, we want to start it in 2024. Why don't you start it in 2023? Heck, why don't you just start it in 2022?
Because they can't, sir. They can't.
But if you're going to vote to start it early in 2024, what's the difference between that? Because it technically still starts in 2025. All I'm saying is, while you're voting, while you're trying to do it, why don't you try to do it for this or next year? I mean, I'm over-exaggerating when I say this year, because you already have things in place. So you'd have to change a lot of things, like as far as bowl games, however you're going to do it. So you'd have to have at least a year to plan. But I'm saying, why can't we start it next year? Why we got to wait till 2024?
You know why?
I do know why.
Politics.
I do know why. But I'm just saying, you kind of made a smart decision, because I felt like it needed to go to 12. I didn't think we'd get from 4 to 12. Thankfully, we did. But this should have fallen to BCS. Like, it shouldn't have been a time frame where you did 4 teams. That was ridiculous. There's so many other things I could say, but at the end of the day, college football has been letting down the fans for a while. Mm-hmm. The BCS was garbage. This is the 4 at least was better than the BCS, because at least 4 people had an opportunity, but that was nowhere near enough, especially again with 5 major conferences, your big 5 conferences. You only have 4 of them in. So somebody's out in the cold every year. Then you got the SEC getting 2 people in a year. So now 2 people are in the cold every year.
Yeah.
Give the conferences a bid. Win those conference championships, cool. You start looking at some of the other conferences and say, well, now that we got 12 teams, maybe this conference can have an automatic bid. maybe this conference could have an automatic bid. You know, some of those that have high quality teams, they have teams that are highly ranked that make it. You know, maybe you can expand some things down the road. This is a good place. I think 12. I think that's where it needs to stop. This isn't college basketball where we need 64 teams and all that. But I think this is a good place to be. Disappointed that it took you this long, but happy that you did it now before waiting more time. So not excited about it, but relieved that somebody in the room had some sense for once and started something that actually made sense that's going to help the sport of college football and help it have a longer playoff time and get more people invested. So I think this is the right move. Took too long.
Yeah, I mean, personally, man, I'm excited about it, right? I think that this is a good move. And you and I've had the conversation offline on a couple occasions, and we were actually in agreement that if you're going to expand, it made no sense to like inch your way up. Decide where you ultimately wanted to go, and just go there.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
And I'm glad they did it. I'm glad that's exactly what they went ahead and did. So what they're doing is it's actually going to be the 6 highest ranked conference champions plus 6 at large. So where this is actually a good thing is a lot of people are going to automatically read this as the 5 Power 5 conferences plus another one, right? But what they're actually saying is that, and this probably wouldn't happen for a few years, but let's just say that you ended up with somebody from like the Sun Belt Conference and somebody from the American Conference. They were actually ranked above like a Pac-12 team. If their conference champions were ranked above the Pac-12 champions, then those 2 conferences would actually get a representative in the playoff, and the Pac-12 might get left out. Now, with a field of 12, the Pac-12 champions is probably going to still end up getting in anyways. It's one of those at-larges. But it does open up the opportunity for some of the smaller conferences that are non-Power 5, but are Division I conferences to actually get in. So I like that the fact that they're opening that up. So that way schools like Cincinnati, it's a lot easier for them to get in. You win one of those conferences and you're giving yourself a much better chance. If you're a team like Cincinnati, you pretty much guarantee yourself a spot. One thing I wanted to address is I know a lot of people kind of have this mentality of this isn't really going to change anything, right? It's going to give us more football, which is awesome. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have the same 4 or 5 teams competing for championships year in, year out. And that may very well end up being true. But what I will say is this. Any given Saturday, right? So if you have to go out there and you have to play 2 games to win a championship, that's different than if you have to play a 3rd game or a 4th game. So when you have to go out there and start playing more games, there's more opportunities for you to make mistakes, more opportunities for you to lose, more opportunity for somebody to catch you on the right day. So even though we might see a lot of the same teams still up there competing for that, this is going to give us an opportunity for a lot more variety in those teams. And we're going to get the chance to see some matchups we don't normally get to see. And who knows? Just like we see in college basketball, sometimes those upsets happen. And when they do, it's going to be exciting. Unless your team's on the wrong side of it, you know.
Yeah, let's be clear about something here. Let's make no mistake. The Big 5, they're going to get their champions in. There's 12 teams. They're going to get their champions in. They can word it however they want to word it. But at the end of the day, those 5 power conferences are going to get their champions in. Now, what they have done is they've allowed for if you have a champion from, another conference, you said Sun Belt, we can go Midwest, whatever conference you want to choose.
Yeah.
If they have a higher ranked champion, then they can get that team in. So that's the benefit of this. You may have a higher ranking than you would based on the fact of where you finish in the top 25. But make no mistake about it. Those at-large teams, worst case scenario, the Power 5 are all going to have one there. That's how it's going to happen. Now, like I said, other teams now have an opportunity.
Yeah.
The actual rank may change a little bit based on where people finish, but this expansion is, like I said before, good for college football. College football needs to have more hype. It needs to have a longer postseason because that's where people start to pay attention. Let's be 100% true. A lot of people don't sit and watch a whole football season, right? A lot of people don't watch a whole college basketball season. Some people even watch a whole NFL season.
Right.
But what do everybody watch? The playoffs, the tournaments, championship games. So now you've made that something that's going to be a watchable thing over the course of some days in a few years for college football as well. This was needed. This is about ratings, and you got a lot of these bowl games where you got obscure teams playing. I don't know what the plan is yet. I'm sure they haven't thought about it, but some of those bowls games could be converted to playoff games now, and that would give them a better audience. The bowls will be watched more. You get a better payout if you're hosting those bowls. So a lot of different things can happen that can be positive for college football by doing this, and that is exciting.
So I'm going to throw out one other thing for you. The timing in this is not a surprise. Because what's going on right now in college football? All of a sudden, you've got these mega conferences trying to form, right? And the risk that you're running is that you're going to start having some of the smaller conferences here out of the Power Five. Maybe you start talking about doing some mergers or some different things to be able to stay relevant. So I'm not surprised that all of a sudden, with all this talk, and especially here the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of like rumbling about different people, and there might be more moves coming up. That all of a sudden they've come out and made this announcement. Because guess what? If I'm a Pac-12 school and I was considering going over to the Big Ten, well, now maybe I'm changing my mind because I'm like, well, hey, I can stay here in the Pac-12 and I got a better shot at actually winning the conference over here and getting one of those 12 spots. Whereas if I go over to the Big Ten, I might not have that opportunity. So, and the thing is, that does definitely play into a lot of schools' decision making. Their opportunity to play for a national championship is why they make decisions. So at the end of the day, this to me is huge in terms of kind of slowing down some of the realignment and the mega conference talk, because people are going to now go, okay, you know what? I want to see where I am.
Yep.
So huge impact when it comes to that. And I don't think people are thinking about that. I think everybody's just, still, got the ankle cuffs out, right now, thinking about the fact we're going to get 12 teams at the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely a major piece of what's happening. It's so many different layers to what they're doing, but the NCAA basically was like, nah, y'all ain't doing this. Or you could do it, but in a way, you're hurting yourself now, right? Based on when this stuff started happening, you're hurting yourself. If you're Oklahoma, if you're Texas, and you're going to the SEC now, before you thought it was going to benefit your chances to make the championship game now or be in the tournament. Now it may not.
Yeah, you might have just hurt yourself.
Yeah. If you're USC or UCLA, you might have just shot yourself in the foot.
Hey, well, I don't know, man. It makes you wonder, right? Like, did UCLA's Board of Regents know something was going on?
Possibly.
Maybe that's why they talk about they might flex their muscles.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Just kind of throwing it out there, because we all know these conversations didn't start this week.
Right. If that happened this week, them conversations have been going on for a year or more.
Yeah. So
because the NCAA can't get themselves together that fast. I don't believe that.
Yeah. So somebody might have slipped up in there and be like, hey, just so y'all know, this is what's going on. It's like, oh, well, hey, we do have veto power, so we might need to, throw that out there. It might be a decision we need to make. And let's not play. If you're UCLA and you're thinking about actually pulling that card, your goal is you're trying to make a network say, hey, if you stay, we'll pay this much, right? because you want to make sure you get the same or at least close to the same money you were going to get for going over to the Big Ten.
Yep.
So yeah, man. Hey, I'm just excited, man, that we're gonna actually get a chance to get more schools in. I'm really excited as an ACC fan, right? I mean, I'm a Florida State fan, not an ACC fan, but as a fan of a team in the ACC, because next year, we talked about it. We're getting rid of our divisions. The two top teams in the ACC, regardless of which side they played on, will be in the ACC championship game. And once we go out to 12 games, you now, even if you're that second place ACC team, if the only thing you lost is the ACC championship, you are now putting yourself in a position to still get into those 12 teams, which is huge. That's absolutely huge for the ACC because, money.
And a lot of teams are really improving in the ACC. I think that a big thing that everybody needs to watch out for in the ACC is Clemson this year. 𝐏𝐿𝐒, he's going to be ready to go this year because he had a bad year. A lot of people dumped him down on him and all that. That's motivation for a young guy that's becoming a man. He's got the talent. He just didn't put it together last year. Clemson had an off year. They lost a lot of guys that had been there for years in different positions. It wasn't just 𝐿E'Le. Everybody acts like everybody else played well and it was just him. Go back and look at those games. There was team efforts the way they were playing last year. There wasn't one person. But I think some seasoned, some veteran guys now there that may not have been last year, understand the game, what to do, what not to do, better prepared. I think we're going to see Clemson be more of the Clemson that we are used to seeing than they were last year. I think Miami's going to be really good this year. I think Florida State has a chance to be one of the quality teams as well. A lot of people are liking Pitt, to make some noise. So we'll see. But I think that there are 5 or 6 teams that at least have a shot right now to make some noise in the ACC.
So I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out for you. I didn't see enough from him towards the end of last season to make me think he's going to take the next step and that Clemson's going to get back. Add to that the fact that Venables is now at Oklahoma. And I feel, especially opening week, that Clemson is susceptible. I'm not guaranteeing it.
Yeah, you don't
but I think there's actually a really good chance that Georgia Tech pulls off the upset.
I just want to ask one question. Do they still have Dabo?
They do.
As long as they got Dabo. And I'm not saying other pieces aren't important. So let's get that straight. But as long as they got Dabo, he knows how to go out there and coach. He knows how to get the right guys in those positions. That's why he's been successful as he has for as long as he has there. And I'm not a Clemson fan at all, but you have to acknowledge when a team has had success. And Clemson has. One down year does not stop what you're doing. That's just a blip. So sometimes change is necessary. Maybe Venables needed to go so that some other people can come in and do things differently and maybe more better use the skills of each individual quarterback. There were some times last year where there was some questionable calls, play calling made by Clemson as well. So I think some of those things will be cleaned up this year. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to win a national championship, but I think they're going to get back into that upper echelon of teams where they kind of fell out of that last year.
And by the same token, I'm not saying that they're going to be garbage. I'm not saying they're going to win like 4 games this year or something like that. I'm saying week 1, I think they're susceptible. That's what I'm saying. And I'm thinking that Georgia Tech could pull off this upset. They did have a close game last year. So I think that it could happen. Just throwing it out there. Food for thought. I'm also going to tell you my nose are going to beat LSU. It's going to happen.
I'm not even going to say anything because everyone would frown upon me, as they should.
But what, about Miami winning?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would hope you win.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like me bragging about us winning last week. Although,
that's why I said I'm not going to say anything.
Look, I will say this about my game last week. We did what we were supposed to do. But man, it's been a minute since Florida State went out and did what they were supposed to do. So it was still good to see, even though this is what we should do, and I'm not gonna brag about it. It was good to see. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm not gonna run around and say yeah. We're gonna beat Bethune-Cookman. Yeah.
I do want to say the game I'm looking the most forward to this weekend is watching Florida get mud stomped by Utah. Just looking very forward to that. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be interesting for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, man. Any closing thoughts that you want to leave us with tonight?
So, last week, I also didn't get to shout out the Big Three champs. For those of you who've been watching in the past, you know, the Big Three is my thing. I like the Big Three. I love watching them. It's an alternative for older basketball players. It gives them a chance, or guys that may not have had the ability to make it to the league. It's a place for them to go and play.
Yeah.
You know, so they crowned a champion. You know, and that was a trilogy. It was their third time winning championship in the history of the Big Three. You know, and so shout out to those guys. A lot of them felt like that their coach and some of the players should have gotten awards that they did not receive. And their coach is Steven Jackson. For those of you who might remember him. So just wanted to shout them out, man. Shout out Ice Cube for starting the Big Three. They did have to take a COVID year off, but they were back stronger than ever, man. In the summer months, if you're ever looking for, you know, some basketball to watch when WNBA is not on, or to fill in the gaps, that's not your thing, I definitely recommend checking out the Big Three. Games normally come on Saturdays. They all play kind of like back to back in different areas, so you just set aside a nice period of time and watch whatever you can of it. Yeah, it's half court basketball, and they play halftime as whichever one gets 2 or over 25 first, and then 50 points wins the game. So it's kind of like half court street ball, but you have fouls and different things as well. So it's a good mixture of the two. You know, like I said, for me, I love watching it. I wasn't able to go to a game this year, but I definitely plan on attending some games in the future. So shout out to Trilogy, the first 3-time champs. Big Three. Let's go.
Yes, sir. Next week, we will be bringing back our NFL picks. So make sure you tune in. Give your picks in the comments next week as well. Don't hide. Show up. Let's enjoy a little NFL smack talk. But before we get to that show, remember Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here, playcollegesportshot.com. The NFL Matchup Madness goes live. Episode number 1. You do not want to miss it. And then
the premiere, baby.
Look, and then you might as well, if you're an Eagles fan, go ahead and tune in the next night to the Eagles Elite podcast on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct, sir. High level of accuracy.
Yes. And of course, you can find the link to that YouTube channel actually down below on our channel. It's linked out, so you can just go on over to their channel. Make sure you subscribe and go support my boy McCain and his group. Also, come back here next Friday. That's right. We got you 3 nights out of the week. That's what we doing for y'all around here. We doing it big. That's why we the undisputed champs. If you haven't already, man, please give us a like. That lets you two know that these videos are important and this is the place to be. And then if you haven't already, man, just go and subscribe. What you waiting on? You know what I'm saying? This is the place to be. So with that, man, we're gonna see y'all back next week. Y'all know who it is. It's your boy Box.
And your boy Cool. And next week I won't be a dark box.
I'll holler at y'all.